Next, we're going to look at divisibility rules, which are really just little tricks that help us figure out if one number is divisible by another. Let's take a look at this question. Is 6 a factor of 7,152? This is another way of saying, is 7,152 divisible by 6? Well, there's different ways we can figure this out. We could divide using long division and see if we end up with a remainder or not. We could also divide using a calculator, or we can use divisibility rules. So divisibility rules are great if we want to do something that's a little faster than long division. Maybe we don't have or aren't allowed to use a calculator. We can always use these rules to help us out. So divisibility rules help us to see if a number is a factor of another number without having to use division. Now remember, a number is a factor if it divides into the other number with no remainder left over. 10 is a factor of another number if the number ends in 0. So here are some examples. 30, 250, 900. As long as there's a 0 at the end, then 10 is a factor. 100 is a factor if the number ends with 2 zeros. Here are some more examples. 500, 900, 1,200. As long as it ends in 2 zeros, then 100 is a factor. So we can tell if 10 or 100 is a factor of another number by just looking at it. 2 is a factor if the number ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. In other words, this applies to all even numbers. So if a number is even, then 2 is a factor. And here are some examples. 38, 194, 50. I have many different examples. But if it's even, then 2 is a factor. 5 is a factor if the number ends in 0 or 5. For example, 45, 230, 7,005. As long as the last digit is a 0 or a 5, then 5 is a factor. Next, we're going to see the divisibility rule for 3. Now, so far, all the examples that we saw only required us to look at the end of the number, at the last digit, to see if a particular number was a factor or not. To see if 3 is a factor, we have to do something a little differently. We have to take the sum of the digits and see if that is divisible by 3. So that involves adding up all the digits of the number, and if that total is divisible by 3, then the original number is divisible by 3. So here are some examples. Let's look at the number 225. If we add up all the digits, 2 plus 2 plus 5, it gives us 9. And 9 is divisible by 3. So that means our original number, 225, is divisible by 3. Here's another one, 1,002. If we add up all those digits, we get 3. So 1,002 is divisible by 3. And the number 87, the sum of its digits is 15. 15 is divisible by 3, so 87 is also divisible by 3. To see if 9 is a factor of a number, we do a process that's very similar as what we just did with the number 3. So we want to find the sum of the digits and see if that is divisible by 9. For example, 576. If we find the sum of its digits, 5 plus 7 plus 6, we get 18. And 18 is divisible by 9. So that means that our original number, 576, is divisible by 9. Let's look at our next example, 3,123. We add up all of its digits and we get 9. That means that 3,123 is divisible by 9. And even this number, 42,867. We add up each digit in that number, and its total is 27, which is divisible by 9. So our original number is also divisible by 9. To see if 6 is a factor of a number, we need to see if both the numbers 2 and 3 are factors. So if 2 and 3 are factors of the number, then 6 is also a factor of a number. So that means that the number has to be even. Remember that all even numbers are divisible by 2. And the trick for the 3 being a factor has to work as well. So we have to add up all the digits and make sure that that sum is divisible by 3. So if both of those rules work, then 6 is a factor of that number. Now let's go back to our original question. Is 6 a factor of 7,152? So you remember, if 6 is a factor, that means that both 2 and 3 are factors. So let's see if this number passes both of those tests. First, to see if 2 is a factor, we need to see if the number is even. So we look at the last digit, and as long as the last digit is 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, then it's even. Our last digit is 2, so it passes that test. Now let's see if it passes the test for the number 3. Let's see if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. We add up those digits, 7 plus 1 plus 5 plus 2, and we get 15, which is divisible by 3. So that means that our number is also divisible by 3. So it passes both tests. It's divisible by 2 and 3, so that means that it's also divisible by 6. So yes, 6 is a factor of this number. So there you go. You learned all different kinds of divisibility rules to see if different numbers are a factor of another number without even having to use division.